الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صوموا لرؤيته وافطروا لرؤيته أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the 5th night of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all His barakat. Any shortcomings, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill it for us and grant us more barakah in the time and enable us to really value and not skip any moment of the moments of Ramadan, inshallah. So today, inshallah, we're going to speak about moon sighting. Shall we? Inshallah. Just in brief, inshallah. What is the sunnah way of moon sighting? So in terms of moon sighting, the strong authentic view is that the continent in which you live, that's where you sight the moon. Okay, so for us, like in Sahih Muslim is mentioned, لِكُلِّ أَهْلِ بَلْدٍ رُؤْيَتُهُم. For every people is their own sighting. So for Canada, America, South America, they have one sighting. And you have to do it with the naked eye. Meaning that you can't use any other device. You have to use your eyes to physically see it. So this is what we attempted, and this is what this masjid does, and this is what the position of the ulama of ulama is. A good book to read on this subject, if you want to learn on this subject, you should read up on this subject. Is a book. One book is by Professor Hamza Yusuf from California. He's written a book on moon sighting. Okay, that's a nice book. There's also another book by Maulana Ibrahim Mayman, Sheikh Ibrahim Mayman, Damat Barakatuhum, a very big scholar. He's also written a book on moon sighting. So read these two books, and you'll get why I'm saying this is the most authentic view. Okay, this is the most closest to the Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, this masjid and the ulama of the area, they adhere to that. Okay, and moon sighting, the ulama, they sight the moon every month, right? The public wakes up to it just like in Ramadan, right? In Ramadan, everybody gets alert. Everybody's looking for the moon on Eid and Ramadan. But the ulama don't just look for the moon for Ramadan or Eid, they're looking the whole year, and they've been counting. So when the 29th happened, they tried, right? They tried their best to see if throughout the U.S. They even waited for California, right? It's not right. The environment will be different in different parts of America, and they tried their best to sight, but they weren't able to sight. And once they sight, then the person is going to have two witnesses, and he has to be an authentic person, and that has to be verified, right? It can't be like a scam, right? So like in Urdu language, they call their own son a chand, right? So you can't just look at your son and say, "Oh, mera chand." Can you say that? That's not the chand we're looking for. Okay, so we have to look for that. Now, the phase of the moon is called hilal. What is it called? Hilal. And it comes from the root word halla yuhillu. It means to shout. And it flickers on and off. So when you look at it, it's hard to see it. You could use your different devices to be able to see it, to be able to pinpoint where it is. You could use science to tell where it is, but then you have to physically see it. So when you see it, then people shout. They go, "Oh, I see it, Ramadan moon, Eid moon." They shout. That's why it's called hilal. Make sense? All right. So that's a natural process that we go through. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. So it's a natural process, and we all have to wait, and this is a natural phenomenon. Good? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to connect with like the moon and everything, and that's a process we're going through. So we have to go through it with sabr. The other alternative is we just guess. Understand? Some people who don't go through the sunnah, they can already predict the Eid of next year. Yes, they can already predict the Eids of. So that's not the authentic view. If you read these two books, Professor Hamza Yusuf from California, if you read that book, they'll break it down to you, and he gives a very nice analogy in there. He goes that this is fitrah. Human beings, we're modern. Obviously, we're modern, right? And obviously, whether you like it or not, no matter where you are on the globe, aren't we modern, right? Because modern technology. We're going away from fitrah, and Islam advocates for fitrah. The Sheikh actually he gives an analogy. We're all adults here. He gives an analogy of when a woman is giving birth. Understand? When a woman gives birth, is either the natural way or the surgery. Okay, so surgery, obviously that's the unnatural way. So with natural, it'll take time. The baby can come at any time. You have to wait. The baby can come on Monday. The baby can come this week. You keep waiting, and it's like a toil. That's the natural process. But with a modern person, the unnatural way is what? Just surgery. You just book it. my baby will come on September 1st at this date at this time. So what is the natural way? Booking it, or the natural way, whenever the baby is gonna come, the natural way. The natural way, yes? So, but guess what? The people who are becoming very modern, they're losing the natural way. They don't want to be natural anymore. They like to actually just get surgeries done. Do you get it? They don't want to do things naturally. And similarly, they don't want to wait to sight the moon, and with the possibility of maybe it's going to get sighted, maybe it's not going to get sighted, maybe it is Ramadan, maybe it's not. That's too much hassle for them. Come on, I'm a modern, I need to go to work tomorrow. Make sense? There's no sabr, there's no connection with there's no possibility. We have to have the possibility. Everybody understand moon sighting now? Alright, so just look in the continents. We're going to sight, and alhamdulillah, there's committees all over. May Allah reward them. There's non-profits dedicated, just like masajid are dedicated, madaris are dedicated. They are actually moon sighting organizations dedicated. They're looking all over. They have a system in place, and they look through it. And then the second day, I mean, did you guys get those pictures where everybody's showing the second day moon? That's actually, there's actually some hadith that indicate that's actually a sign of the Day of Judgment, where the Muslim community won't understand where moon sighting is, and then the next day they take pictures. It doesn't say that in the hadith, they take pictures, but they look at the second day and try to prove a point that this must have been the hilal of the first day. So actually, this year I got more messages where people kept showing those pictures. So to me, I'm scared of those messages. I'm like, you're bringing the Day of Judgment closer. It's like we never understood. We're not looking for this the other day. Makes sense? And even if it was bigger, it doesn't mean anything. We missed it the first day. We all tried to see the hilal. We didn't see the hilal. Does it make sense? Of course, we know from science, of course it was born. Of course it was there, but we weren't able to see it. So that is the criteria. Inshallah, we can hang on to this. We're modernists. We need to like fast food restaurants, and we need to have our surgery on Monday. Do we want to be like? So the Sunnah, if you compile all the Quran and Sunnah, all the Hadith, that is the conclusion of it. So if you read those two books, either you can read those two books, or I've given you a little summary of it. Okay, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to stick to the Sunnah. That's very important. Okay, now I'll come to the topic. Today's next principle is tilawatul Quran. That was a little bit about Ramadan, right? Every day I share a little bit about Ramadan. Now I'm getting to my book. So the next point is tilawatul Quran, recitation of Quran. Hey, but before I go there, what was the last principle? Hajj. Yesterday we talked about Hajj. What was the first principle? Salah. Is everybody's mastered Salah? Is everyone flooding the masajid? I'm not seeing any additions over here, but maybe you all are going to other masajid. Maybe you all live really far away. But everyone should start coming to the masajid. We should attend that, and take, iqamatul salah is a big part of our deen. In terms of Hajj, there was two stories that I left out, and I know everyone loves stories, so I have to go back to the stories. One is, there was a young person, he was going for Hajj, and the scholar, he asked him that you're going for Hajj, and he had newly just started becoming a religious person, and he's going for Hajj, and he asked them, you going for Hajj? You're going to go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the young person said, not really, I'm just becoming a religious man now. I don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that, but I want to go for Hajj. He said, no, first you spend time with me for 1 year, and let us you learn about Allah, get his ma'rifat first, and then you go to his house. And the young man agreed. So the moral of the story is that we should gain ilm before we go to Hajj, right? Before we go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There should be a learning, and we said that yesterday as well, that there should be a learning before we go. So we should know Allah. Knowing Allah is through ilm. The more Quran and Sunnah that you know, the more halaqah and learning that you do, you're having more ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that learning that you go, now you'll fulfill the adab of being in the house of Allah. And the second story that's coming to my mind. There was a rich person. Also, the next story, it shows how the energy that you need for Hajj is spiritual energy, not physical energy. There was a rich person from, I believe, South Africa, but hopefully there's a lot of rich people from South Africa, so in case he's listening, hopefully he doesn't know that we're talking about him. Inshallah. It's not backbiting, right? Because we don't know, we're not saying who we're talking about. But people told him that you're a Muslim man. He was a rich businessman. He was very rich, but he hadn't done Hajj. And people showed him the hadith that, hey, you're Muslim and you're rich and you haven't done Hajj. Allah's not going to forgive you on the Day of Judgment. You owe Hajj at least once. You have to go. Kept pushing the businessman. You have to go for Hajj. And then he went. And when he went there, then people told him, oh, now you have to put on your ihram. Okay, he wasn't aware of that. Understand? So he put on the two ihram, and it was too tough. It was too hard for him, right? Because there was no spiritual. He didn't know how to sacrifice for Allah. So when he landed there, he said, "What is this? Unsewn cloth? This is so uncomfortable." He took a flight back, and he was mahrum. He was not able to do his. He was not able to do Hajj. So what lesson do we learn from that? Meaning that if you're not ready to sacrifice, meaning that for some people, the right ihram is not a problem. You know how to sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know how to give up the dunya. You know Allah created everything. If He asked you to wear two unsewn cloth all your life, He let you wear real clothes. If He asked you to wear two, you could do it. That's it. So it's not that. So we have to have a spiritual learning and a training. We have to learn how to sacrifice for Allah. And even tarawih, these 20 rakats, right? Those are people who have been doing it. Your soul is ready for it. You know how to sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For some people it's very difficult. But may Allah make it easy for everyone. And there was another person. He went one time. He was actually like a bodybuilder. He was actually very strong. I could talk a lot today, right? Tomorrow everybody is off? No, okay. Inshallah, I'm going to cut it short. I'm going to go faster, inshallah. He was actually physically well built. Okay, this person, hopefully this person doesn't know we're backbiting him. Inshallah, maybe we all don't know who we're talking about. A lot of people are built, right? All of you all are built, mashallah. But I know him to be exceptionally built, very strong. But again, when he got to Mina, right, it was very tough for him. With the two ihram, he was almost like in tears. It was because that's physical strength. Spiritual strength is something different. He didn't realize that sabr. He was lacking the lack of sabr. So people who weren't that physically built, they weren't crying, and the person who's completely built is crying, because it's a different energy. It's spiritual energy. It's your connection to Allah, your willingness to sacrifice, your love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's these things that are required. So anyways, I just shared these stories that came in my mind. I thought inshallah it will benefit us, inshallah. The next principle is tilawatul Quran. Tilawatul Quran, I'll share the hadith that Imam Ghazali rahimahullah mentions. He says, the most virtuous act of worship for my ummah is the recitation of the Quran. That's one hadith. Another hadith, on the Day of Judgment, there will not be a greater intercessor than the Quran, neither a Nabi, nor an angel, nor anyone else. In Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, whoever is so preoccupied with recital of the Quran that he cannot ask of me, then I will give him more than that which I will give to those who ask. So recitation of Quran has so many barakat, and it's mentioned as a sixth principle. Tilawatul Quran is a big function. Rasulullah sallallahu coming into the world, tilawat was a big function. And it's the starting point. If you ever take any Islamic classes, what's the first thing they teach you? If you ever want to sign up for Islamic class and you never take Islamic, what's the first thing they'll teach you? It all begins there, qaida. Quran, tilawat. You learn how to do tilawat, then they'll teach you some law. They'll teach you some belief. They'll teach you some here and there. But that's the starting point. Yes? And tilawat is a very essential function. It brings so much barakat. And it's so important. The whole month of Ramadan is given to us for Quran and recitation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to increase our recitations and our tilawats. We should do more and more tilawats. Dedicate ourselves. Ghazali rahimahullah mentions the etiquette. So you should sit facing Qibla. You should sit without too much movement. And you should read in a very good manner before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes people who are not knowledgeable of the Quran and all that, they will simply just discard it. They say, oh, they're just reading it, they don't know what it means. But is that true? They're just reading it, they don't know what it means? No. Just the recitation is an ibadah, it's a worship. Okay, it's something special for this ummah. This holy book, this is a special function of it, is the recitation. Then learning it and knowing its meanings and wisdoms, it's a fountain, there's unlimited fountains of wisdom, and you have your whole life to do that. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in tilawah.